Welcome to So Alma Media. Have you ever looked closely at an ancient Viking cross and realized you aren't just looking at a symbol of Christianity but a hidden battlefield of competing gods? If you want to uncover more dark history and forgotten ancient mysteries, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell right now. So when you walk up to a stave church in Norway, like the one in Uranus, or examine the ancient stone high crosses scattered across Ireland, Scotland, and northern England, you're looking at a brilliant piece of psychological warfare and cultural survival. The Viking cross is not just a holy icon, it's a masterpiece, a masterclass in compromise. When Christianity arrived in Scandinavia and the Nordic territories, the Old Norse religion didn't just vanish overnight. Missionaries realized they could not force the Vikings to completely abandon Odin, Thor, and Freya, so they did something incredibly clever by blending the two worlds together. The horizontal and vertical bars of the cross perfectly mirrored the structure of Yggdrasil, the Norse world tree that connected the 9 realms. To a newly converted Viking, looking at the church cross did not mean letting go of their ancestors. It meant rewriting them. To understand how deep this psychological camouflage goes, we have to look at the physical structures left behind in the Scandinavian wilderness and across the British Isles. In Norway, the spectacular stave churches serve as a wooden canvas for this cultural collision. Builders constructed these churches using massive vertical wooden pillars or staves, which heavily mirrored the sacred groves where pagans originally worshipped their old gods. On the rooflines of these churches, instead of seeing exclusively Christian crosses, you see towering, fierce dragon heads carved into gables. These dragons were not just decorative additions. They were the exact same protective beasts found on the prows of Viking longships, placed on the house of the new Christian god to ward off evil spirits and appease the local population who still feared the unseen terrors of the old world. If you zoom in on the woodwork of the doorways, particularly the famous urns-style carvings, the symbolism becomes even more complex. The wood features an intense swirling chaos of stylized animals, vines, and serpents biting their own tails. While a Christian priest might explain these carvings as a representation of the struggle between good and evil, or the classic biblical battle against the serpent of sin, a Norse craftsman would see something entirely different. To the Viking mind, these intertwining snakes directly represented Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent that wrapped around the entire world, holding reality together until the final apocalyptic battle of Ragnarok. By keeping these designs on the church itself, the craftsmen ensured that the transition to the new faith felt like a evolution rather than a complete destruction of their cosmic worldview. This hidden blending of traditions becomes even more explicit when we look outside of Norway to other European places where the Vikings settled and ruled, such as northern England and Ireland. A prime example is the Gosford Cross in Cumbria, England, which stands as one of the most remarkable monuments of the Viking Age. On this single tall stone cross, Christians and pagan narratives are carved directly into the same stone face. On one side, you can see a depiction of a man with his arms outstretched, which represents the crucifixion of Christ. However, right underneath and around this image, the stone is covered in scenes straight out of the Prose Edda. You can find the carving of Vidar, the silent Norse god, using his heavy boot to tear open the jaws of the monstrous wolf Fenrir to avenge the death of his father Odin. On another face of the same cross, you can spot Loki, the trickster god, bound in chains with a venomous snake dripping poison onto his face, while his faithful wife Sigyn holds a bowl to catch the venom. By superimposing the suffering of Norse gods onto the monuments of the crucifixion, the creators of the Gosford cross were telling a dual story. They used the apocalyptic tragedy of Ragnarok, which the Vikings already understood deeply, to explain the Christian concept of the end of the world and the ultimate resurrection. It was a tactical artistic blending where the old gods were preserved inside the symbol of the new faith, hidden in plain sight. This practice extended heavily into Celtic territories as well, where stone crosses were frequently wrapped in a prominent central circle. This created the iconic Celtic cross, which deliberately fused the traditional Christian cross with the ancient sun wheel to appeal to pagan sun worshippers across Ireland and Western Scotland, making the new religion visually acceptable to those who worship the natural forces of the sky. Even with the way the Vikings treated the cross as a physical object reflected their pagan roots. Before the arrival of Christianity, the Norse people erected massive rune stones to honor dead warriors, record great achievements, and call upon the protection of Thor. When they began adopting the cross, they didn't stop making these monuments. They simply adapted them. They began carving the cross directly into the center of the rune stones, often framing it with long, winding runic ribbons that still contained magical inscriptions and invocations to their ancestors. The cross became a new kind of protective rune, a symbol of power that the Vikings added to their spiritual arsenal rather than substituting for their old talismans. They wore crosses and amulets around their necks, but archaeologists have discovered soapstone molds from the Viking Age that allowed silversmiths to cast Christian crosses and Thor's hammers side by side in the exact same workshop, showing that the average Norse trader kept both options open, depending on who they were dealing with or what kind of luck they needed on the open seas. It makes you reflect on how much of our modern world is built on these kind of invisible compromises. We often think of history as a series of hard lines, bloody conquest, and total erasure. But the Viking cross proves that real cultural survival is actually about radical adaptation. The old world didn't truly die. It just changed its clothes to survive the coming winter. It forces us to wonder what other ancient secrets we walk past every single day, completely blind to the older worlds breathing just beneath the surface of our current traditions. Garantangi, till the next video.